Reach out right now and touch your thermostat. One click and the room is 5 degrees warmer. You don't even think about it. Your hand just goes to the wall. But 25,000 years ago, your ancestor stood on open steppe at -30, with no walls, no roof, no tree for hundreds of miles in any direction. At that temperature, exposed skin starts to die within minutes. He had none of the things you have. No insulation, no concrete, no heating. Just the bones of dead animals, hides, and the refusal to die. You picture him shivering next to a small fire in a dark cave, huddled under a hide until morning. So how did anyone survive a place like that without a single wall? The answer isn't what you're picturing, and it will change the way you look at every wall you own. Archaeology says, not by shivering, by engineering. Let's start with this. Almost none of them lived in caves. In the village of Mezhyrich in Ukraine, archaeologists uncovered 4 circular structures built from hundreds of mammoth bones and tusks, ranging from 12 to 24 square meters, the largest about 7 meters across. Tusks curve into a dome frame. Skulls form the base of the walls. Dozens of smaller bones fill the gaps. Inside, hearths and storage pits, stone and bone tools. For a long time, all of this was read as a temporary hunting camp. In for a season, kill some mammoths, move on. Then in 2025, a new study flipped that picture completely. The problem with the old dating was that you can't reliably date the mammoth bones themselves. The animal could have died decades before its bones were collected and reused as building material years later. So this time, researchers dated something else: the bones of small rodents trapped in the occupation layer of the structure itself. An animal that lives and dies right there, with no lag. The result? One of the 4 structures, known as mammoth-bone structure 4, was in use for close to 429 years. That's not a one-season camp. That's a home repaired, rebuilt, and handed down to grandchildren for centuries. Mezhyrich turned out to be one of the oldest known examples of architecture built to last across generations. Now scale it up. On the Don River in Russia, at a site called Kostenki, archaeologists dug up a circular structure 9 meters by 9 meters, built from the bones of at least 60 mammoths. 51 lower jaws and 64 skulls make up the walls. It's the oldest known circular mammoth bone structure on the entire Russian plain. Inside, traces of fires, burned bones, food remains, some of them plant matter, which is strange on its own for a site built from the remains of hunted mammoths. Your first instinct says this must be the capital, the main house of the whole Ice Age. Here's where it gets strange. Some of the bones in the wall still had cartilage and fat on them when they were stacked, which means the structure would have physically attracted wolves and foxes with the smell of rotting meat for miles around. Researchers who studied the site concluded that people, by the evidence, were not eating there regularly day after day. 60 mammoths worth of bone, and maybe no permanent home at all. So what was it? A stockpile for hard times? A seasonal gathering point for several groups at once? Maybe a ritual center that clans from the whole region knew and returned to once a year. And here's a second twist that makes the story even stranger. Scientists checked the age of the bones against each other, and it turns out some of the jaw bones are 200 to 1,200 years older than the rest of the structure. That means 60 mammoths were not killed in one big hunt in one season. The bones were gathered over decades, over centuries, from animals that had already died naturally. A mammoth weighs several tons, and a living herd will not let you kill its members one by one in front of it. So a circle built from 60 mammoths isn't the trophy of one lucky hunt. It's a project that spans generations, collecting, storing, stockpiling material, until one day somebody finally stacked it into a wall. So there was no single formula. In the Czech Republic, at Dolní Věstonice, a third answer. And it doesn't look like either of the first 2. People lived there between 29,000 and 25,000 years ago, hunting mammoths together as whole clans. Here the mammoth bones weren't stacked into a dome. They were built into a fence, a boundary that physically separated inside from outside. Inside that fence stood clusters of 5 to 6 huts, each holding 20 to 25 people, with the whole community numbering anywhere from 50 to 150 at once. One shared fire in the center. This isn't scattered families shivering alone in the dark. This is a planned settlement, with a shared hunt, a shared fire, and, judging by the world's oldest known fired ceramic figurines found at the same site, an already developed culture. 3 sites, 3 different engineering answers to 3 different problems. Mezhyrich, a home built to last centuries, repaired generation after generation. Kostenki, maybe not a home at all, but a rare gathering point. Dolny Viestonice, a planned settlement of 150 people around one fire. Your ancestor wasn't dumping bones wherever just to get warm. He was choosing a shape for a purpose. But bones are only the frame. None of it works without clothing at -30. Archaeologists find bone needles with people from this period, and a needle doesn't mean a hide thrown over the shoulders. It means stitched, fitted clothing with multiple layers. Next to the needles, hide scrapers, and the bones of specific fur-bearing animals, Arctic fox, wolverine, rabbit, red fox. That's not random catch. That's selecting fur specifically for insulation, not for meat. Siberian figurines around 24,000 years old appear to show people wearing exactly this, fitted, hooded fur clothing. And here's the physics that makes that clothing actually work. It isn't the fur itself that keeps you warm. It's the air trapped motionless between the fibers. A 4-layer winter garment only 5 centimeters thick creates a layer of still air about 2.5 centimeters deep around the body. And that layer is what holds the heat, not the thickness of the hide by itself. It's the same principle inside your winter coat today. Different material, same physics. Arrived at through thousands of years of trial and death. Now go back to your thermostat. The number on it is a temperature your ancestor could never get by pressing a button. He got it by deciding what shape to give a pile of bones for what purpose. A home built for centuries, a rare gathering point, a settlement for 150 people, and how many layers of fur to stitch with a bone needle to survive the night. Every warm morning cost him a choice, labor, and knowledge passed down to grandchildren for generations, before it finally turned into a button on a wall you don't even think about.